Welcome to the Visual Nostalgia Podcast, where we look at lost and found treasures, old movies, great movie stars. Sometimes there's going to be things that you overlooked. There might be a film that you didn't know was out there that you have not seen yet. And I want to explore it all with you. So we are going to dig in. Years ago, I discovered old films, old TV shows, westerns, and the saddest moment, and I don't know if you can relate to this, is when we got to the end of a series and I was like, it's gone, it's over. And then I realized over the years that there are things I have not found yet. So I've kind of made it my mission to go out and find those things, those shows, those movies that I have not discovered before and that I can enjoy for the first time. I mean, that is the biggest treat. But it also can be a treat when I can see something I've already watched that is good enough to watch again. I'm very picky. I don't like watching things over and over again. So I'm going to bring you the things that I think are good enough to watch again and again, even for me, who's Miss Picky here. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're with me. We're going to be looking at pictures together. Beautiful slideshows from our favorite celebrities, our favorite actors, favorite nostalgia from videos, from movies, from films from times gone by. So together today, we're going to discover the true story behind Brewster's Millions. So we're going to have a lot of spoiler alerts. I am going to tell you, even if I tell you all about these films and you haven't seen that, you're still going to want to see it. Okay, but letting you know, spoiler alert right now. I grew up with the other Brewster's Millions that came out, was it in the 80s? So this was a different one I had seen before, and then I rewatched it today as I was preparing to share this with all of you. So it is an American comedy from 1945. There's a lot about Brewster's Millions, but I'm focusing on the 1945 version of this. And Brewster's Millions is based on George Barr McCutcheon's 1902 novel of that name and the popular stage adaptation by Byron Ungley and Winchell Smith. Brewster is a stockbroker in the book, but he is a veteran in this adaptation. I have to tell you, the whole veteran thing with them coming back from the war, World War II in this movie, I really liked it. I really liked how it was so Americana. It just made you feel good about our boys at war and defending freedom. And I just, you just wanted to give them all a hug. They're welcome home. And you felt like you were in that time and in that moment. And it was very patriotic. And I really liked that. And they just gave you a little picture of what it was like when they were home. And he was like, I'm going to have to get a job. I'll have to do drafting. And the other guy is like, I'm going to be doing stockbroker. And all the soldiers and his friends were home from the war. And they were finding a place for them in the house to stay. And it puts you in that moment. And this was that moment. 1945. In the category of Best Music Scoring of Dramatic or Comedic Picture, Louis Forbes received an Academy Award nomination for the music here. After serving in Europe during World War II, American soldier Montague L. Brewster is eager to return to New York City and wed his childhood sweetheart, Peggy Gray. However, after learning of a peculiar windfall, he needs to delay the wedding. And I think you know the story of this, and we're going to get into what happens here. And I sometimes I feel awkward for the characters. Our family laughs at me here because I will want to leave the room or fast forward. It is hard for me to see embarrassing things. And so the fact that you're going to find out here that he can't tell his fiance what's going on with the millions, with the money. And I'm like, oh, I can't handle this. I mean, so it's a good show when you get embarrassed for the characters. And I'm not above fast forwarding. I don't know what I would have done if I was in the movie theater back then. I would have probably put the popcorn over my head. I'm not sure. So his uncle passed away and left him $8 million. but he can't collect it until he spends and doesn't save $1 million of it before his 30th birthday on October 13th. So he has to spend the money, and you'll hear more here. The attorney says Brewster's uncle wanted him to get sick of spending so that the balance of the money would be put to better use. So doesn't want him to be somebody who's just lazy and spends money all the time and throws away money. Wants him to be careful with his money and use it wisely. So, I watch things like the Shark Tank. I'm a big Shark Tank and Dragon's Den fan. That's the only modern shows I like. And I think it's interesting with Mark Cuban. He really wants to make sure that his daughters are not spoiled, that he wants to make sure that they are really good with money. Because when you grow up with money, you don't always appreciate it and use it wisely. So he sometimes invests in people who will help mentor his children. So they will learn the value of a dollar and they'll learn about being entrepreneurs. So I kind of get this. What do you think of the uncle? Do you think he's crazy to do this? What would you think if your uncle did this? Would you be happy, or would you be like, I don't know about you? I think I'd be happy. One of the requirements is that he keeps his actions a secret. Oh, that would be hard. Reluctantly, Brewster accepts because he's about to marry the fiancée. So this makes it, you have to push it all back. And how do you have a relationship that's not built on truth? Like every plot device in, like, I'm going to say in a Hallmark movie, bless their hearts, every plot device is always like there's some sort of deception. And then at the end, that comes out like, you lied to me. How could you lie to me? And then, they break up and then they get back together. So you sort of can see this is going to be a problem. He forms Brewster and Company, an investing firm, and recruits Hackey Smith and Noppy Harrison, two friends from the war, to serve as vice presidents and private secretary, respectively. Most of his attempts to waste money end up paying off, though. Isn't that the way it happens? And he'll bet on something. The horse, you think, this horse will never do well. And then the horse wins, and it's like, no chance. So it's a little predictable, but funny. Worse, Peggy gets envious of Brewster's time spent with the socialite Barbara Drew and subsequently showgirl Trixie Summers, both of whom he is employing to help waste his $1 million. Smith and Harrison, who now believe Brewster to be insane, set out to foil his plans. And at the same time, Peggy and Brewster split up, but her mother convinces her to go on an expensive vacation with him and the actors of a failed play he sponsored when Smith and Harrison cancel it. Okay, follow along. Smith and Harrison plan a coup during the voyage, locking Brewster in his cabin and ordering his hired boat to head back to New York. Now, I have to tell you, this is very screwball comedy. I do not like screwball comedy. I usually do not. I am not into the silly humor, okay? But this was so charming and so, like I said, so Americana. It had so many of those good feelings about it that it made me like it. It made me fall in love with it. And it is an interesting concept. So he gets away when the U-boat mine disables the yacht and proceeds to the bridge to give orders to the captain to send out a distress call. Brewster finds out that the large salvage charge to secure a tow from a passing Brazilian cargo to a neighboring Florida port is $450,000. He celebrates after calculating that his $1 million will be depleted by the price, the cruise, and the losses from the unsuccessful theatrical production. Several days later, as the deadline approaches, Brewster returns to New York at Peggy's house with the receipts from his spending sprees, assuming he has fulfilled his objective, right? However, his pals surprise him by presenting him with $40,000 and like 12 cents or something like this. He manages to spend the last of it quickly by paying the executor's fee, an old obligation of $10, $2 for a cab fare. And I love how he's like thinking it and like the clock is dinging and he has like seconds to figure out, how do I spend this money? After Brewster claims his fortune, he and Peggy leave the house. Like today we could like buy NFTs or something crazy. Oh wait, no, that's an asset. He can have no assets. See, I would mess this up. With Brewster claiming that they need to be married immediately and go to the next justice of the peace. As he walks out, he's stopped by a door-to-door salesman, and the salesman's tactics may include offering a product for 2 cents more than its retail price. And this is why Brewster doesn't want him around anymore. I actually didn't like this part. I was like, leave the salesman alone. You send threats. But he was a little hard on the traveling salesman, and you see that the uncle's point came through, that he would be not somebody who wastes money. So I did hear a radio show with Jack Benny. I did not finish it yet, so I will have to finish it and tell you what I think of that. And Rochester is in this film, and it's just so funny. I just love Jack Benny, so I have to go and hear the end of it. And if you hear the Jack Benny one before me, tell me what you think. Thank you so much for joining me on my first ever nostalgia podcast. I'm Mrs. H. Thanks for tuning in.